It's good to see you all again. I'm Jake, Project Manager for Quality Games, and we're here to show you our vertical slice and February development for our third-person action platformer, Long Arm of the Law. Now, before we delve too deeply into our February progress, I would first like to reiterate some of the major information in our game that we first told you about last month, out of respect to the virtual and the added audience that we have this time. So this is the hero of our robotic western, Motor Rockwell. So in this world, every robot is built with a purpose. Motor is one of the few sheriff bots, and if you look at his design, you'll notice some asymmetry happening with his arms, where one is much larger than the other. Well, when sheriffs are built, they come with two of these long arms, but Motor tragically lost one of his in an accident and had to have it replaced with a smaller prosthetic. And when that loss burdened him greatly, it enabled him to finally wield a revolver in that other hand, and between his two arms is a bot like none before him. And these are members of the crew for the Bandito clan that Motor is hunting down in this game after following a lead that told him that this group may have stolen his arm. Filled with righteous indignation, Motor sets off on a journey to get back what is rightfully his by bringing law to the lawless. So what tools does he have in his arsenal that can help him with that? This brings us back to our core mechanics. So these two objects you see on screen here represent the player's major autonomy in this world. We have the gun, and we have this arm. Your gun appears to be your standard 6-shot revolver, but it actually has a special property to it in that the bullets that you shoot are electric and can magnetize metal surfaces. Now your arm, on the other hand, can extend outward out of your body and retract back into itself. So you can grab onto objects from a distance, and once something is grabbed, enemies can either be pulled in or pushed away from the player. But in the case of a pull, how do we know if the object is going to come to us or if we're going to the object? This brings us back to the mass-based interactions we told you about last time. So in this instance, we have a light object, so when we extend and try to pull it back, the object comes to us. Alternatively, when we grab it and push, it goes away from us. In the instance of a heavy object, we can see that when he grabs the object and contracts his arm, he gets pulled into the object. Alternatively, he can push away from the object. And in the case of something that is the same weight as our hero Motor, when he pulls, they both come and meet in the middle, and alternatively, when you extend your arm, you're both going to get sent back the same distance at the same speed. So now that we've seen our weight-based interactions, let's go ahead and talk about some of our artistic inspirations and our ambitions. Our ultimate goal with the visual experience is to honor the old Western locations, colors, styles, and tropes, and present them with inspirations we've taken from Fortnite's shape language, color values, and stylization. You can see with the screenshot on the right that the objects within the scene have a playfulness with them that we aim to emulate for our aesthetic. So even though these are typically like hard objects, they have this like softness to them that we're trying to imbue with our art style. And when it came to researching asset packs that lended itself to the style we want, we weren't really able to find any that suited our look, so we had to create that art ourselves. So in our last milestone, our goal we stated for Vertical Slice was to have these colored sections here in a playable state, with the green section representing the area with finalized art in the scene. We also intended to have a single enemy and the prototype mechanics transferred into UE4, and a new character controller with animations attached to it. And we're pleased to announce that the first two rooms of the game have achieved the state of finalized art, not just one, and we were able to transfer all the mechanics we showed you in Unity last time into our new engine, and then some. We'll be showing you all that soon, so let's go ahead and break down our monthly progress. So we're going to start by looking at our protagonist, Motor Rockwell. What you see on the left side was the proxy model we had for our character as of last month's presentation. One of our challenges and requirements going forward was to refine his shape and model into looking like this concept art you see on the right side that we showed you last time. Here you can see the progress we're able to achieve in the month. On our right-hand side is our new character controller, and Rick, I know what you're thinking. I can see the intensity in your eyes. I can feel that question brimming from inside of you. Where is his backside? Right there, hang on. There you go. There's that backside. Wait for it. There it is. Don't worry, this is just a mix of animation. It didn't take any time. But if you want to see actual animations we have for the game, we're going to go through these next few slides. So this is our idle. This is a walk. We have a run, and the next one is going to be a jump. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and take a look at how some of the other characters in our world are coming along. So you saw this enemy right here at the start of this presentation, and here's the progress we've been able to make since last month, where we only were able to show the 2D concept, and now we have it as a 3D model. As the T and Toad namesake implies, though, this is an enemy that can explode. So this explosion here releases robotic nuts and bolts, as well as a smoke trail that lingers behind those pieces. We We've also applied this effect onto the frog enemy, which explodes in a few different ways that we're going to be showing you in our demo. But now we're going to move on to our asset room. This is a level within the game that our artists place new models in the scene to show how their mass and how their style relates congruently with the other created objects. Specifically within that level, we have this diorama area that enables us to create little scenes out of our pieces and see if they are matching with our intended style. So one interesting pipeline tool we're implementing is this height-based vertex painting. What this tool allows us to do is get a lot more out of our tiling landscape textures. We can add diversity and interest to our textures wherever we need it in the world space on the fly. An interesting implication of this is that we can use this tool to not only decorate our scene, but to paint pathways that can lead the player into our intended areas. So here you can see the overhead revision of the mines that we've done since that image we showed you last month. Not much has changed in terms of the level's flow. We still have the same areas that we intend to show for our vertical demo, but we're restructuring the opening of the level to be a little bit more tight and linear, and you're going to see it in action in the demo coming up shortly. But for now, we got to talk about the coolest and the sexiest part of game development. Oh yeah, that's right. So how do we acquire our data? So first we record those tasks in Handsoft, and we take the times from Handsoft. And with those time ranges, we create an average as well as one standard deviation that goes above and below the average. From there, we create our pipeline so we can figure out how many number of hours we need to spend on an element of the game. And then from there, we create our budget that estimates the max number of elements we can create, and from there, we create our schedule over the span of those 20 weeks that we have. So let's take rooms in our game as an example, like a room inside of a level. The first thing we do is we record the task, so white boxing, set dressing, lighting, etc. We take time ranges with an average amount with a low end and the high end. We create a pipeline in terms of allocated hours per week, and a budget in terms of tasks completed over the span of 20 weeks. And from there, we're able to create our schedule with how we build our levels. And to get about 1 hour of gameplay, we're going to need to make 20 rooms. So here we have used the information to create a pipeline system to best represent that one element, in that case being rooms. On the right side, you can see us calculating how long each element will take for each room, which gives us a total time of 42 hours, which is necessary for a large-scale planning, and the longest time, which tells us how many rooms that we can build. On the left chart, we can use this information to create swimming lanes, so that each person can know what is dependent on whom, and also to show that multiple rooms can be worked on at the same time. For instance, level designers, after whiteboxing, go back to a previous room and apply lighting while they wait for models for set dressing. The same applies to the modelers when they are done with the room. They can move on to the next, even if it's not completed by the texture or the lighting. So what this ultimately tells us is that, by the end of the game, we'll have been able to make 20 rooms, 95 object models, 7 characters, 60 animations, 28 effects, 26 UI elements. So now we've addressed these process tools and pipelines, it's time for the part we've all been waiting for, which is to see the monthly progress on our gameplay. So last time we spoke, I was showing you our Unity prototype that we had in January. We chose Unity as our starting engine, at least for the programmers, because they were able to quickly flesh out the mechanics that we wanted to have in the game in that engine so we could test how they felt, if we liked them, what needed to be changed, etc., before moving into Unreal. So we had some simple ARM mechanics, some simple UI and AI, and just your basic programmer. But like I said earlier in the presentation, we were able to move along successfully from Unity to Unreal. So now we're going to show you our vertical slice demo. So we're going to hit the play button in just a second. It's going to trigger a cinematic that's going to show you the first 2 rooms of our level with full set decoration. Now you saw those 2 rooms in the overhead, but now you're going to be able to see it with all the art, the finalized art in place. Go ahead and hit play. So, welcome to Copperwealth Mine. This is the first level of our game. It takes place in an abandoned mine shaft that has recently taken up some new residents. The Bandito clan we were telling about earlier have made their new home in here. Motor is currently tracking them down to locate his lost arm, and he is here on a mission to find them and bring them to justice. So, given that this is an abandoned mine shack, it's starting to decay. You can see that we have some rust like on all these metal pieces here. And you can notice that nature is starting to retake this scene as well. So we're going to go ahead and hit start and enter the level. Go ahead and take a look around this room. So, as a team, we decided that one of our ultimate goals is going to be to publish to Steam. As a result, since we are a small team with a limited art budget, we decided that the pieces that we built in our world had to have some modularity associated with them. Modularity was really important to us because it enables us to build several pieces that can dynamically be placed in scene to make set pieces that feel dynamic and unique from one another. So we're going to go ahead and take another look around this room, and then we're going to come up on our first platforming section. This area of the game is pretty simple. It's just meant to tutorialize the player, get them used to how it feels to just do your basic walking and jumping. So Arian, whenever you feel ready, let's go ahead and hop over to those stairs in the next section. Okay. As we turn the corner here, you can see some of what I was talking about in terms of nature taking back over. There's a little bit of a cave-in happening up here, so you can notice that sand is starting to pour back into these mines. And areas where the light is hitting, you can see that we have vegetation growing in those places. So this next jump is also going to be a little bit too, you can't make this jump with just a single jump. It's going to take a double jump to make it across. So let's go ahead and give that a try. Single jump doesn't do it, so we make our way back around, and there we go, we got it. This next jump is going to require a double jump, not to move horizontally, but vertically. You're going to need to make your way on top of this platform here, so give it a shot. Okay, now the next thing we want to point your attention to right here are these rail tracks that you see here. So you can notice that there was a cave-in on one path, so the player knows that there's no way they can move down there, as well as an area that's been completely sealed off, likely because of the destruction that's happened in the area. Another thing to pay mind to is, we mentioned vertex painting earlier and how it allows our level designers to paint along paths that the players are supposed to be following. So here we were able to paint along a rock path that leads you to this first platform, so the player is naturally kind of guided to where it is they need to be. This section is, right now, the most complicated platforming section that you've seen so far, insofar as if you fail to make this jump, you'll fall and you have to do it over again. But still, you have limitless tries to be able to do it, so Arian, go ahead and do your best. Oh, it's okay, because he's able to do this as many times as it takes, just to get used to the feel of platforming and double jumping. Okay, so now as we come up in this next area, this is a jump that's going to be too large for the player to naturally be able to make it across. Go ahead and give it a try. Robots don't like water, so the second he made contact with the water down there, he was instantly teleported to be back here. So now we're going to talk a little bit about our icons and what they mean in the game. So in the center here, you can see our player's reticle, and this is where the character is currently aimed at. So if he were to shoot right now, it would go right in the middle of that reticle. Go ahead and try it. Just like that. Now when your reticle gets near an object with one of these white dots over here, it means that it is an object you can interact with. So notice what happens as the reticle gets close to this piece. Okay, we can see that we have a red reticle on the outside and a blue reticle on the inside. A red one indicates that this object can be shot with your gun. A blue one indicates that you can grab it with your arm. And notice how your icon doesn't even need to necessarily be overlaid with it in order to make that contact. That's because we're intending a lot of dynamic movement in this game, and we don't want players to feel like the game was too precise and they missed the important thing that they needed to grab or shoot. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to extend our arm onto that metal beam, and we're going to try to contract and pull ourselves into it so we can make it across. Just like that, we have now made it safely across. The next thing I want to point your attention to here are these oil geysers. While this may have the appearance of being a set piece built with multiple different oil geysers, this is in fact one object that we've been able to scale and rotate in just such a way that it creates a unique set piece. This plays back to the modularity necessity with our art assets that we were telling you about earlier. So even in the instance here where this particular geyser was stretched upwards, notice how we didn't lose any of the resolution with our texture, and the reason why is because our textures are scaling in relation to the world space, so we don't have those same kinds of problems. Now we're going to go ahead and descend down on this pole. We're also trying to do a little bit of storytelling with our level design as well. So you can infer naturally that at one time these two tracks met, they no longer do. If we look over here, we can see that a minecart has fallen over, collapsing some of this railway. And something interesting with these rails is that one of our artists built a spline tool that enables us to essentially place our rails on that and be able to distort and manipulate the railing however we need to within our world. So now we're going to go ahead and turn around. Notice this reticle appeared on screen. What this means is that there's an object that Motor can currently grab onto even though the camera is not currently facing it, but because he is facing it. So go ahead and extend your arm. As we can see, he has now made contact with an object. So if we turn our camera over, we can see what it is he's grabbed. It's another one of those metal pieces that he grabbed onto earlier. So now we can infer that if we contract our arm, we're going to pull ourselves into that object. Okay, excellent. On that note, we are now going to be leaving our beautiful set dressed area and we're going to be entering White Box World. So as we walk through this archway, we're going to go ahead and it's going to trigger a cinematic. Okay, so what we just saw there was one of those TN toads, unfortunately collapsing the way forward. So now we're going to have to find another way around. So if we look to our left, we can see that there's a boulder that's blocking the stairway right here. So what we're going to have to do is grab one of these TN toads that's across the bridge, and we're going to have to employ one of our new mechanics we've added this month. So what that new mechanic is stiffening. What that essentially means is that at any stage during you contracting something in or extending away, you can lock your arm in place and hold whatever object it is you were grabbing onto. So we are essentially going to be grabbing this from across the chasm and placing that bomb frog right next to the boulder, blowing it up. Go ahead and give it a shot. He locked his arm in place, and he's now able to transfer it right over there, and it exploded. And now we're able to find another way around. So in this section, Arian can keep double jumping to make it over these stairs. That's his call if he wants, but we also place another one of these metal pieces to pull yourself over. We're trying to build the idea in the player's head that these won't always be necessary for you to make forward movement, but sometimes that efficiency feels really, really good. So we want to be able to have these set up throughout the world. So go ahead and pull yourself up and save yourself some time. Just like that, we're at the top of the stairs in record time. All right, so now we're coming up on two more of those TN toads that we saw earlier. You can eliminate enemies in a number of ways, but first we're going to start with something basic. Let's just shoot them a few times. Let's take them out with a gun. Okay, so that first one is out. And for this next one, we're going to show you how you can extend your arm to crush something against the wall. So he's going to grab this frog and he's going to shove it into the back wall. Just like that, he was crushed and he exploded based on that physical impact. So now that eliminated all the threats in the area, we're going to go ahead and descend these stairs now. And as we make it down to this bottom step, this is the end of the canyon section. This is essentially the end of the demo that we promised we'd be showing for Vertical Slice, but we've also been developing another room that we would like to show you that imbues some of our AI, some of our level design considerations, and we're also going to be showing you some new mechanics in this new space. So let's go ahead and turn around and let's go a little deeper into these mines. So first we're going to talk a little bit about the Bomb Frog AI. There are a few ways that you can get him aggravated at you. One is to grab him, another is to shoot, which will get just about anyone's attention if you shoot them. And the other is to walk into his line of sight, thus he sees you and now he's mad at you. And as far as his explosion goes, he either explodes on a 6-second timer, or if he collides with the player, he will explode on impact. So let's go ahead, get his attention and have him explode. He sees you, he touched you, and then he exploded. In the next section, over here, we're going to talk about group AI. And in this case, it is the idea that if you annoy one of these frogs, the others that are near it are going to start to come after you as well. So go ahead and get one of their attention, and let's see what happens. And now Arian has a problem. We're trying to make it so that way you can't just snipe out enemies. You have to be able, this is a combat game, you have to be involved in these set pieces. We also want the AI to feel a little believable too. So we're going to turn our attention to this. You can't make this with a double jump, but you can pull yourself up there. So we want to get the player used to the idea that you're not just going to be using this tool to help you get across chasms, but also to ascend vertically as well. So go ahead and pull yourself up. All right. Now as we walk around this corner, we can see that there's some grabbable objects up on that balcony over there. So let's go ahead and try to pull ourselves up there. Okay, so what we had there was a light object. We've identified those at this point, that a light object is going to come to you. Okay, let's try the next one. That was a little closer this time. What you saw was a medium weight object, so you guys met in the middle. But there has to be another way on top of that balcony. Well, as we were entering this cave, astute players may have noticed that we had a secret tunnel just to the left-hand side. So we're going to go ahead and walk back to the entrance and try to find that tunnel. And we can pull ourselves up. So something we're trying to do with our level design is make sure that our levels have enough of these little secret paths that stray away from the golden intended path, so players can feel a sense of like reward and like feeling that they're solving secrets to the game. So over here is another one of those cacti that we've been able to grab throughout our level, but we can see that there's no icon over it, there's nothing indicating that we can interact with it in any way. And the reason being is because we're currently too far away from it. So if Arian wants to make it all the way to this end of the level, he's going to have to get a jumping start and then pull himself midair. Go ahead. Okay, just like that, we're on the other side of the map. All right, the next thing we want to show you now, we've talked about how bullets can magnetize they can magnetize metal surfaces. But we haven't yet demonstrated that in any of our demos. So now we're going to operate under the assumption that this white cube right here is a metal object. Go ahead and shoot it a few times. Just like that, they get sent flying to it, and since these frogs explode when they take enough collision damage, they blew up right on that impact. But we can also magnetize an object and send it flying to enemies as well, which we're going to demonstrate for you right here. Just like that, we're able to send the magnet at them. Now the next thing we want to show you in here is a super move that we've actually been developing this past month. So if you look over here, you can see these orbs that are floating in the air. These spawn every time you defeat an enemy, and if you collect them, you start to build up a meter that enables you to do a super move. So in this next section, we're going to be presenting, Arian is going to enter a super move state where the screen is going to flicker and become dark, and he's going to be able to shoot up to 6 enemies at a time, and then with the press of a button, he can detonate, and all of them are going to explode. So let's go ahead and try that. There's our game logo, indicating that we're currently locked onto something. And the game slows down too. And you turn away because cool guys don't look at explosions. You can't. It breaks all the rules of reality. Okay, so now we have one last section that we want to show you before we go back to the PowerPoint, just behind this wall over here. Similarly to our Unity demo where we had a playground of sorts, where we had a bunch of moving interactable pieces in that last section, we're going to have another one of them just past this wall. So I'm not going to tell Arian what to do at all. He can interact with this upcoming scene in any way he wants, and then we're going to be moving back to the presentation for just a little bit more information. See, this is an instance where you want to have that aim assist if you're flying around. On that note, we're going to go ahead and change it back to the PowerPoint. Okay. So now, the last bit of information we need to break down with you. We're going to talk our future plans. Our next milestone presentation is going to be on March 28th. By then, our designers are going to have finished up the mines up until the boss fight, and also present a full design for what that boss is going to be. Programmers are going to implement 2 more enemy AIs and build tools for tech and level designers to more easily create levels with interactable objects inside of them. Artists are going to be finishing the frog enemy, the blockout of the miner, have some new environmental assets in from the level designers, and finish the protagonist model. On that note, we are Quality Games, and we will see you next month.